Hi, thanks for the question. I've been asked what stops you going over the handlebars when you're doing an emergency stop. Well, if you think about it, the way to do an emergency stop is to turn the power off and apply the front brake gently to start with, just to get the brakes binding. So that means putting the pads against the disc if it's a disc brake, and getting the brakes to bind first before you start the application and the squeeze on the front brake. What stops you going over the handlebars is quite simply not being aggressive on the brakes. I mean, people pull wheelies because they're aggressive on the throttle, and they do a stop because they're really aggressive on the front brake. But what they do is they have to lean forward and move the weight transfer over the front brake to do that. But when you're braking normally and gently, once you've got the application and you start squeezing through the front brake, what happens is the suspension dips on its own gently, and you're taking up that compression gently rather than just snatching on. Snatching on the brake would more likely cause the front wheel to lock, and then it would slide and slip away, and that's where most people come off. But if you've got a bike that's got ABS, then you don't necessarily get that feeling where the front end's got to lock up, and you get that brake judder on the fingers through the brake lever. And that's basically because the ABS has kicked in and it's just releasing the brakes as you lock it up, so that you won't go over the handlebars in that situation. So the suspension really does stop you going over the handlebars. Keep your weight down in the bike, in the seat, and again, that would help the bike to be more stable. And if you're going to be crazy and do stoppies and stuff like that, don't do it on the road, do it somewhere else. Go on a private bit of land and play that game. But then obviously, you know, you've got to lean right over the front end and then be quite aggressive on the front brake to get the back end lifting up. And that's a possibility of going over the handlebars in that situation. But I've been training for over 30 years and I've never seen anybody go over the handlebars when they're doing an emergency stop. So I think just be a little bit more gentle on your brakes, and that will eliminate the possibility of going over the handlebars when you're doing the emergency stop. Again, I've never seen that, so don't worry about it. So practice, 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 and even though you might have done it on your test, then once you pass your test, then you should still be practicing emergency stops at higher speeds, and the speeds that you would normally ride at, it would be a good idea to do emergency stops at higher speeds, and that way you know that when it does need to be done at a higher speed, then you can actually do it and be quite comfortable.